The world of Valorant is much like our own. Or the humanoid goth octopus and the giant orbital space laser, Valorant is set on our own planet, allowing us to explore our world and architecture. So come join me, Callum, here at Studio Null, where as an architect, I will help guide you through Ascent, a beautiful part of this fictional Venetian city, which has been ripped into orbit by a disaster. So let's find out, what does the architecture of Ascent explore and showcase about our world?
Hey, Control. So, about the package...
Ascent is one of the simplest, if not simplest, maps in Valorant. It doesn't have any particular gimmick at the forefront of its design, unlike a lot of other Valorant maps. There are two starting locations in a Valorant map: attackers and defenders spawn. At the beginning of the game, only certain areas of the map are available, which provides interstitial spaces over which no team has control or priority. Ascent has two bomb sites, A with a raised walkway, which is colloquially called Heaven, whereas B is a dugout where players must descend into the space in order to plant. Between these two sites is a mid, which runs through most of the map, starting in the interstitial space before extending back to the defender's spawn. Each site has a path from this midsection of the map, which can be blocked off with a destructible door. Due to this design, each bomb site has 3 points of access. 2 of them at the beginning of the round are given to the defense, whereas the third entrance has an interstitial priority. Due to this, many areas of the map have a different sense of space depending on which team you're playing. If you're an attacker who's grabbed their way up on a lurk into the defender spawn, you will feel behind enemy lines, whereas the space as a defender feels comfortable and safe. This often leads to an interesting interaction where the attacker catches the defender off guard as they were expecting to be secure in their position.
This round, A-Plan fell apart completely for Team Liquid, but it's Nats lurking. Who's surprised to hear that that has found success for this squad? And they've got to worry about him now because he's tished up this entire part of the map. Now, look, they don't know the B-side is cleared. They don't know it's wide open. They don't know that Nats is going to... Oh, what hell of a fight on mid. Okay! I thought he was taken down there, but no, he's up for the ace. Nats lurking is a dangerous thing to face against, and well, Foot learned that the hard way.
These interstitial spaces become battlegrounds at the beginning of the round, as teams fight to take priority over the newly available space. The attackers must fight through these spaces to approach one of the bomb sites. Due to the interstitial nature of these spaces, neither team feels comfortable in them until they're able to claim the area as their own territory. Thus, the nature of spaces and maps architecture changes throughout the round. This is never more apparent until an attacking team claims one of the bomb sites as theirs. Suddenly, the nature of these spaces shifts. Where once was an open entrance into the bomb site for the defenders becomes a claustrophobic choke point as they attempt to retain. This ever-changing nature can be even more exasperated by abilities of the Valorant protocol agents. An agent like Sage, who can create a breakable jade wall, can entirely change the map's architecture by blocking off circulation paths. With their wall smokes, Harbor of Viper can create a new liminal space and further bisect the map. Suddenly areas which were defender space could become interstitial when they lose sight of what's behind the smoke. Whereas initiators like Breach or Sova, their abilities flip the claim of space from defenders to attackers and vice versa for a period, making it dangerous to remain in these spaces for that duration. Now that we have the basic principles of a Valorant map in order, let's move on to the breakdown of Ascent. Ascent is a fictitious version of Venice, so I thought let's first break it down and explore it through the lens of existing fictional versions of Venice. Invisible Cities, a book written by Italo Calvino in 1972, is a poetic deconstruction of cities, and most importantly, of Venice. The book explores 55 fictitious cities, each with its own theme, and it does so through the eyes of Marco Polo, describing the cities within Kublai Khan's empire to the Khan. In the story, the Khan asks Marco why he never describes his hometown, Venice. Marco replies, "Every time I describe a city, I'm saying something about Venice." So from this, we know that Venice is the city of invisible cities, and can therefore be described by all of the cities within this text. The city of permanent construction, Thekla, is the most interesting and apt analogy. Much like the A bomb site, Thekla is under permanent construction, with scaffolding and wooden catwalks being seen across the city. The very nature of the Valorant map Ascent means that this scaffolding and construction of the A bomb site is never going to be complete. It will perpetually be under construction. If you ask a citizen of Thekla why their city is permanently under construction, they respond so that its destruction cannot begin. Now obviously Ascent's destruction has begun. However, the map is caught in this timeless zone of never-ending destruction and never-ending construction. This hits the exact same balance that Thekla does, as if you peek through a fence in Thekla, you will see scaffolding having to support scaffolding and cranes having to raise up cranes. Finally, if you ask a citizen what plan they are following, they will wait for the night sky to appear before they point upwards to the sky that is filled with stars. There is the blueprint. Ascent is a map that is amongst the stars, with pieces of Venice literally floating in the sky. Venice is known for many things, including the towers littered across the city. These towers are known as campaniles. As they feature so prominently across the cityscape of Venice, it is only fitting that the chunk of floating island has its own campanile. There are over 100 bell towers across Venice and its lagoon. As there are many different campaniles within Venice, not one in particular has been adapted into the game. Instead, elements of many campanile have been shared and used as a precedent to make the Campanile of Ascent. Although a lot of these campaniles differ drastically from one another, most tend to have the same or similar features. There are only 2 consistent features across each of these campaniles. Each of these features we can see within the Campanile of Ascent. Starting from the bottom of the tower, the first consistent feature is the engaged columns of the campanile. These engaged columns tend to be either 3 or 5, depending on the size of the tower. And here in Ascent, we find 3 engaged columns. These engaged columns were not initially exclusively an aesthetic decision, but instead built to allow such thin, tall structures to be made of brick. However, the decision to showcase these on the exterior of the campanile causes the tower to feel elongated and thinner than it actually is. As we rise up the tower, the next recurring feature is the belfry. Now, unlike the typical belfry, which is a small confined space, typically only providing enough room for the bell, a campanile's belfry takes elements of the loggia to offer ample open space surrounded by columns and arches. The belfry of the campanile is often the most ornate part of the tower, while simultaneously using different materials from the rest of the campanile. This specific difference, along with the previous feature of the engaged columns, causes your eye to raise up to look at the feature of the belfry. As we continue upwards, we reach the top of the tower. However, this is where things become inconsistent, as campaniles don't have one consistent style of top. Many campaniles have spires, with the likes of the St. Mark's Campanile. These spires are certainly influenced by Gothic cathedrals due to their close proximity to the Holy Roman Empire. However, the Catholic Church is not the only influence that's on Venice. They've close trading ties with Islamic and Byzantine nations. These influences can be seen with some of the other campaniles, in which they terminate by a dome, such as the Santi Apostoli. However, despite these alternative dome tops, Ascent has went with the Gothic spire. The two other prominent features that we see on the Campanile of Ascent are its windows and its clock. Many campaniles feature a clock. After all, they are bell towers, so their purpose is to keep time for the citizens, and the clock allows for extra decoration on the elevations of the tower. Whereas the windows are more inconsistent. Not all towers have openings along their elevations, and only few of them have arched stone openings. One such example is the St. Mark's Campanile. These many different features create the Campanile of Ascent. Although there is not one specific building that is a reference for this, all of these elements are shared with existing campaniles, using them as precedent in order to create something that resembles them rather than replicates them. So now that we've broken down the Campanile of Ascent, let's explore a different side of Venice: churches. Baroque took Renaissance architecture and attempted to recreate the architectural stylings of the Greeks and Romans and introduced structures like domes and colonnades. Domes were already present within Islamic and Byzantine architecture, making them much more dramatic and decorated. There are several ages of Baroque, though the critical one to highlight is the High Baroque. In other words, Baroque designs which were made during the height of the Baroque architecture, between 1625 and 1675. These designs brought large domes into structures, introduced cupolas, while simultaneously the elevations of these buildings would showcase an entabler, pediment, and composite columns. Though Baroque architecture was not the only influence on Venice, there was another influence: Andrea Palladio, a Venetian architect who grew in fame and power during the Renaissance period. As an architect, Palladio was heavily influenced by the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius. Palladio was famed for his villas, which gained the term Palladian style. As his styling developed, he introduced an element of symmetry into his work, which can be seen most clearly in his Villa Capra, in which all four elevations are identical. So along with the influences of Palladian style and Baroque architecture, Venice built Santa Maria della Slu. The Santa Maria breaks some of the Palladian style characteristics of symmetry with a rear elevation, in which we can see two campaniles terminate in Islamic domes, as well as a secondary dome. The octagonal shape also allows smaller diagonal walls to also showcase an entabler and a pediment. The easiest point to spot the Baroque styling is the large ornamental buttresses for the central tower, the Corinthian columns, as well as the great dome itself. The Santa Maria della Slu is the direct inspiration for the game's exploded church, which towers over a site. The large double doors with the arched window above, the four composite columns which ascend to the facade, of which only two connect to the architrave, and even down to the 8-pointed star in the middle of the pediment. If we move to the defender spawn, we can see a different elevation of the church. Here, unlike the front, we do not get double doors, the composite columns, or the architrave, but instead this still does resemble the side of the Santa Maria with its understated elevation along the sides. However, there are quite a few differences within this design still. Though the back of the building is not entirely modelled or designed to reduce the file size of the map, the octagonal shape of the design is still retained, though there is a lot lower emphasis on this fact, as the diagonal sides do not have a projected pediment, though this allows for a ramp to exist. And finally, because we do not have a rear to this building, there are no bell towers or secondary domes within its elevation. With the destruction of Ascent's church, let's pivot a little and explore another form of destruction that's present on the map. Now, the architecture of a futuristic megacorporation which deals in not only power, but also has a private super military. Holy God's Kingdom sounds like a terrifying company. Seems to have its own unique style of architecture, rather than adapting to the context of its surroundings. However, Kingdom is not absent of any existing styles of architecture. In fact, Kingdom's building and Ascent is a direct inspiration for the current industrial architecture. In fact, it seems to resemble one piece of architecture in particular, the VBZ bus garage. Now don't worry, I didn't know about this place either. The VBZ bus garage is a piece of concrete that's in Zurich, Switzerland. So what does it have to do with Venetian architecture? Well, it doesn't. In fact, what it does showcase is more about Kingdom than anything else. The building here does not care about its surrounding context. It does not use any similar stylings or even materials. Thus, the Kingdom building stands out amongst everything else. The harsh grey concrete and metallic panels are distinct from the bricks and render of the surrounding buildings. The sheer lack of windows for the building also showcases the lack of empathy for the surrounding area. Not only do windows allow light into a building, one of their most significant use cases is breaking down the elevations of a building. Thus, we are left with a rear elevation, which is a large, stark, grey flat wall, which is directly across the street from a lovely small butcher shop. This small butcher shop, with its large windows at the front, not only showcases the meat it's selling, but it breaks down the brick facade and causes the area to feel much more open. However, the stark contrast of the Kingdom building breaks this feeling, as although the brick building is in fact taller, the Kingdom building seems to cause more domination over space. This is perfectly showcased by the fact that the Kingdom's building entirely overshadows the shopfront, plunging this whole space into a dark one rather than a possible light open one. The Kingdom building also opens into a public square. However, if we look at the surroundings, I would hazard that before this Kingdom building existed, it was a much larger open public space for the citizens of Venice to enjoy. At least the nicest elevation of the Kingdom building does face the public space. However, it still detracts from it with its large concrete tower. This tower has no windows, no chimney, so the only use for this tower is to be a sizable concrete billboard for the VCT. Contemporary buildings invading historic context are not a new phenomenon. The new recent additions often don't ignore the existing context, but instead embrace it or counter it. Creating a counter style for the existing architectural style with the new building or addition elevates not only the contemporary building, but also heightens the style of the existing building. However, Kingdom does not do this, because Kingdom does not care. After all, it is a large mega corporation that has a secret military of super soldiers. It has the power to not care. Instead, Kingdom simply replicates its own architectural styles without considering the surrounding architecture. Venetian architecture that's showcased in Ascent spans many centuries and is filled with beautiful precedent, which I can only imagine must be paper thin when being shot through. Though Ascent is ruined and destroyed, much like mega corporations and wars often cause. Nevertheless, Ascent is still situated amongst the sky and stores with these lovely bits of architecture. Right, that is it. The Valorant map breakdown for Ascent is finished. We are here. It is done. A lot of things have happened during the recording and editing process and the research process for this video. If you look in the video, you will see a billboard that I mentioned. Yeah, that billboard advertises a Valorant eSport event called Masters Tokyo that took place in June of last year. I say last year because it's currently the 5th of January that I'm recording this on, and hopefully the same day it goes live as well. So yeah, it's taken quite a while. In the process of making this video, I was evicted from my house, I lost my job, I became homeless, I found a new job and found a new place, and it's been over a month at this new job as well. So yeah, it's been quite a journey through this. Hopefully the next one doesn't take quite as long, but just a little teaser, the next one is Batman, so the new Robert Pattinson Batman, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that. There's a lot of very interesting tidbits with the architecture of Gotham in that world. So yeah, if you guys want to speak to me, I am a moderator on the architecture community Discord, so if you just want to join that and ping me in that server, I'll be happy to speak to you. There's a link down below. I'm also a writer and reviewer for Architov. We are an architectural journal that is open publishing, so anyone can publish on there. So I'm writing an article at the moment. We currently already have 2 articles up already. So if you guys want to go read those articles, that would be wonderful. It is entirely free, the Substack, so don't worry about any payment or anything like that. There's a link below. So I'm going to go back to celebrating my birthday, and I'm going to see you guys next time, and go join a union.